So we built the simple kind of skeleton we needed for this. We've gone and, well, I've gone and drawn out the logistical steps we're going to need and the parts we're going to need to make it actually work. So what I'm going to do is isolate off this now, make its own layer. I'm going to call this the power fist arm. Put L so we know which one it is. Okay, and we'll hide everything else that isn't this power fist arm, basically. I need to move these things into it. There. And now just the power fist arm is visible, which will make things a little bit easier for us. Okay, first things first, let's look at this. I'm going to strip out this piece, and I've got this piece here that I can start working on as a base. Okay, now I'm just going to get out my sketching. And remember, my sketching was very rough. What I need to do first is start building the very simple shapes that I'm going to use for this. And the thing I like about this is that I've actually got quite a good design, I think, for my main actual kind of pivot area. So what I'm going to do is obviously ignore this cylinder because it's only been designed simply as a piece of scaffolding, and I'm going to make an auto grid, make it 24 sides. I'm just going to pull it out roughly from the middle of this, give it minimal height. There we go. Convert to editable poly. Now I like working just with the front polygon, so I'll delete the back ones, which is obviously I just selected the front one, did a Control and I as you saw up in the top left viewport. And now I can move this kind of back to about here. That's roughly where I want it. And this gives me a shape to work on. Now, I'm just kind of looking over the shape that I've got here, and I want to start with the middle piece of this. So I'm going to go straight into bevel. Now, freehand beveling, as you know, is lots of fun. You can do lots of things with freehand beveling that you can't really do without taking a lot of time with a lot of sliders otherwise, so it's worth taking your time practicing freehand beveling. Now I'm going to give it a 0 height. You can tell it's 0 height because it basically does that weird thing around the edges, and bring it all the way in like this to about here. This is where I'm going to start the actual inside piston mount for this. Now what I need to do is just bring this out just a tiny bit like that, just to create that little chamfered area there. I'm going to bring this up, like so. A bit more. Because we need enough space to have the pistons come off the top of this as well. Now I'm going to build the inside part of this. There we go, bring that to about there. And this will give it basically a kind of impression of heavy weight to it. Lots of nice, thick, detailed parts like this. Okay, that's fine. Now what I'm going to do is delete this ring here. I can just hit the delete key for that. And I'm just going to mount this into here, like so for the moment. Get rid of my scaffold. And this will allow me now to do some work on this piece. What I'm going to do here, because I can cut this in half later on, I only need to do the top half at the moment. I'm going to select these 4, just here, and I'm going to delete them. Next I'm going to grab here to here, and do a bridge. And then it's just a case of grabbing here and here, doing a cap. In fact, I probably don't even need that cap, but I'll come back to that in a moment. It's easier keeping it there for the moment, I think, until I do some changes over this side. Okay, next I'm going to do a quick inset just here. Just wait for autosave to do its thing. There we go. And I'm going to cut here to here. Just do a quick connect. Okay, now just a case of a quick extrude straight up, like so. And then what I want to do is go to this polygon here and do a hinge edge on this one. Pick hinge, it's going to be this. 180 degrees. That's 182, 180 degrees. And if that's 24 sides, then we're going to have 12, sorry, if that's 24 segments, we're going to have 12 segments here. Click OK, click delete, Control A, go into weld. Now our settings for weld may be what we had them at earlier, so I'm just going to be careful. They're not. Just make sure this is welded together, and it is, so that's fine. Okay, so we've got this top part coming over and out like that, which is ideal for what I want. Now, because I quite like most of these shapes and the way they're coming through, I'm just going to have a look and see if there's anything else I can do with this. And my left viewport here. And what I'm going to do is grab these and just turn them over. About this far. Gives us a slightly more interesting shape. Now you may notice obviously they're all crushed up and no use at the moment, so we'll just use the scale tool on them to make them the right size again. There we go. Drop back in perspective. There, that's nice, and that'll chamfer nicely as well. Okay, next what I need to do is kind of half this. So I'll just get my select by polygon tool, take half of it out, like so. Then I can just use my rotate tool, hold down. Well, I can't hold down shift to do this really, because it'll be back to front if I do, so it's going to have to be a mirror. And just make sure I've got it on the correct axis, which is the Z. Click OK. Now, of course, I've got to reset the X-form on this straight away, which will turn it inside out. But I can turn it inside the right way around again just by convert to editable poly, select by element, and then flip. Okay, let's attach the two parts together. Quick Control A and a weld. And make sure our verts start getting attached together again properly. There we go. So that's starting to work out okay. Now we need a large central kind of area that we can have our main control piston come off. I mean, these may well be just redundant, but that's not the point. We still need to have the detail there. So what I'm going to do is select these 4 polygons here. And I'm going to delete those. Actually, before I do, I'll inset them a little bit. There we go. Now I'll delete them. That way I've got slightly thicker edge, which makes it look stronger. Then bridge. And I'm going to cap there. And then here to here, quick connect. And then I'm going to just extrude this straight out. Now I don't need it that thick, so that's a little bit too thick for me, but that's okay, I can make it smaller. So I only want half the size. I'll just go straight down and do a connect. And then just extrude it straight out, like so. Delete this bottom piece, then do a hinge from edge on here. Same settings as before, so I just click OK, delete that piece. Control A, do a quick weld just to close it. Okay, and now we've got a piece that I can basically build our short, fat, stubby piston off straight away. And that gives us a secondary kind of movement off the elbow that we don't need, but which we're having anyway. Okay, let's cap this middle part again, like so. And I'm just going to isolate this. And look at the back here. Now the reason I didn't remove some of these pieces is because I need this round shape for the moment. I'm able to keep it anyway. I'm going to cap that. And if you remember, I said that we needed to build our larger disc that kind of goes behind this. So what I'm going to do is give it a 0 length bevel. Bring it straight out to about there. Then slight chamfer. Bring it out like that. Slight inward chamfer. And then into about there. Okay, and this gives us basically this nice big fat control ring, which is like a big gear. Now if I delete this inside part here, what I can do now is create a mirror again, this time on the x-axis, which I'll move across, like so. Funny, you probably hear me kind of leaning forward and leaning back and stuff. Okay, again, same as before, we need to reset the X-form. And then flip that over. There we are. Now it's just a case of attaching the two. Then a quick weld. Then if I just grab here and do a quick loop, or ring rather. No, hang on, loop. Always get them mixed up. Backspace. Looks like we've got a slight disparity in its shape there. That's okay. You can work with that. Backspace. Let's just undo this a moment. Go to my top viewport. Looks like the angle is off. Let's flip that again. And the last thing I want is an angle that is off, to be quite honest. So let's make it an angle slightly better. Let's hit F3 so I can see what I'm doing. Work on my eye, what joy. Probably a better idea using the transform type in for this. And this will allow me to transform it around the Z axis a lot more precisely. There we go. Now I can go into the move and move it on the X axis. And then I can go into the rotate again. That axis still needs a tiny bit more change. This is always one of the problems because, of course, when I created and was building on the grid, it must have been slightly offset. So the angle wasn't completely perfect, but it is something that we can fix, so I wouldn't get too worried. Okay, I'm just going to use the move tool. Move it to about there. That's fine. And then it's a case of attaching them and doing some welding. Now let's see if we can get rid of this middle seam. Sure, looks that way. Backspace, top view and zoom. There'll be a load of verts just left down the middle here, which I want to kill. Backspace those as well. Perspective zoom. There. And that is our elbow piece. Now obviously it's not been built in the correct angle to how it's going to be used. However, it's okay. As you can see, it also fits inside this, which is a very important consideration for me. So next part, we're going to create probably the pistons and then the mounts down here.